Hello, everybody. Good to be with you again. I'm here with my friend and student, Chris Warnock, who's been with me for 2.5 years, whatever. He is an awake being and quite clear. And what we want to talk about is we just got off into this subject about how to be an effective student. And because that's what we're really interested in, is being an effective student. In other words, we want to use the teachings that we're being exposed to in order to wake up and in order to clear up, not in order to win. Chris and I were just talking about that he was going to take some of my that he was going to actually take some of my suggestions that he hadn't taken before. He's taken a lot of suggestions, but there were some others. Talk about that, Chris.
Well, it's interesting. I was, I've come out of a Zen background, so I've been doing a lot of meditation, and my knee has kind of been acting up recently. So I said, you know what, I'm not going to meditate anymore. And I thought, you know what? Hey, Fred's been saying I should do inquiry. I think I'm going to actually do some inquiry. And we were laughing about, oh yeah, let's actually do what the teacher says.
Yeah. And that's I can remember back in the day that I did the same thing with The Power of Now. Was that I read that book the first time and it was like, well, this is really good. I can see this guy's got a lot on the ball. Next. And I just picked up the next book and just went forward. And it was actually but I was nonetheless affected by it, but I didn't get it. I just didn't really follow what he was saying. And I just knew that he was telling me some of the truth. But about 18 months or so later, when a lot of suffering kicked in, that book came back to mind, and I thought, damn, I wonder what would have happened if I had actually done the exercise, right? Because for me, the exercises were always for the slow ones, right? The kind of dumb ones, not like me, not for me. I'm the advanced student. I don't need all that. I just need a little bit more information.
Right. I was going to say this is exactly what happens is that, and again, I come out of this sort of traditional lineage where there's way too much focus on, the teacher's way up here and the student's way down here. But there is some value in that because there's a level of respect, and, I was thinking about this earlier. It's sort of like to be a student, you have to know you don't know something.
Yeah.
And if you don't know that you don't know, then you can never learn. Mm-hmm. And, and then this teacher you have to recognize that the teacher has what you lack.
Yeah.
If you can't figure that out, then again, you're having a problem. And then the real key is, are you willing to wholeheartedly and unreservedly follow the directions of the teacher? And that's the hardest thing, I think, for people.
Well, I think it's hard because we're afraid to trust. And I think that we
Yes.
get in situations where we're not, where it maybe not even really be safe to do that. But what we're talking about here, when we say follow what the teachers say, we're talking about it in a very strict, narrow area.
Yeah. Well, I think you want to check out the teacher beforehand. Is this somebody who just wants your money? Is this somebody who's going to abuse you or mess with you? You need to figure that out, not just be naive about it and recognize it. On the other hand, once you've checked the person out, and then you're talking about spiritual teaching, follow what they say. Yeah. And don't fight them. And that's the hardest thing is like, instead of, if you say, well, blah, 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 and you say, no, no, no. I mean, what is the teacher trying to get at? I mean, exert you to the self to the utmost to see what are they pointing at.
When I started when I started, I carried on for a number of years. And what I did was I just dug. I was looking for pure water, and I dug shallow hole after shallow hole. Mm. I touched on this guy or this teaching or this guy or this teaching or this woman and this teaching, and and it was like I would get a little from here and I get a little from there, and I could see that there was some common ground, and I would start linking them, right? And it's just not effective. You can do that all of your life. You can dig shallow holes all your life, and in fact, most people do dig shallow holes all their life. And when I always talk about going deep with the teacher, which is and when I say with a teacher, what I'm always talking about is a teaching. There's no teacher here. There's just a teaching, and that's the case in every spiritual lineage. There's never a teacher there, but there is there's always just the teaching that's flowing through an awakened being, if it is an authentic teaching. But we use that, but we nonetheless, that's our focal point. And we want to get in alignment with that focal point, because ultimately what we're trying to do is, people will come to me and it just doesn't go too much in the way of discussion, because I've already been where they are. I spent a lot of time. I spent 24 years as a seeker, and then I spent a number of years as a confused and apparently oscillating awakened being. And it's understanding that the idea of the teaching is that the world is seen and understood in a certain way, and it's truish, right? I'm not saying it's absolutely true, but this teaching is quite truish, because I can't say the truth in words, but it's to help the student come to see the way it's seen here. It's not so that we can merge views and come up with something that'll work. It's not like that. It really is to come to see it this way. And then if you go deep and you don't go deep, you go shallow and find out that that's not what you want. Okay, but be clear on what it is. You're not looking for somebody who agrees with you, because what you're doing doesn't work.
I was going to just talk about how, when we're talking, we could be talking about the weather, we could be talking about websites, and yet it's not an information exchange. What's happening is that you're an awakened being, and it's sort of like, I feel like I'm in an inner tube in a pool and just kind of drifting around, and I've drifted off by the time I get back to you. And all you do is come in and poke me. And what I need to do is just be willing to be poked.
Yes, be willing to be poked. Because there, when we're talking about the weather or this, that, and the other, as you and I talk about, we just talk. I mean, we're friends. We just talk about stuff, and that's not directly spiritual, whatever that is. But there's something that happens underneath the surface in our interplay that just can never happen. It can never reach the depth it needs to if you're going from shallow hole to shallow hole. You're jumping from teacher to teacher and teaching to teaching. And you think that when you come into non-duality that we're all doing the same thing. We're not. The living method of awakening is really a far cry from most non-dual teachings. So get in alignment with the teacher.
Exactly. And it's that level of trust, and that level of we have to do our utmost together to get where we're going. And the teacher knows where they're going. Now, if you reject the teacher entirely, but you don't want to go with the teacher and then say, well, it's a smorgasbord. I'll take this, I'll take that. I'm going to fight with you on this, because you're just never going to get there. And that's the secret. It's sort of like the willingness to be wrong.
Yeah.
And the willingness to be different.
Yes. The willing to drop the defensiveness of I'm right. Because that's the problem, is that all your thoughts seem so right that you're in full agreement with them. The only problem is you're not awake. So,
yeah, how did that work out for you?
Yeah, how did that work out for you? So and what we're talking about again and getting into alignment is once you get into, pardon me, everybody, once you get into alignment with a teacher, then it comes under the surface of that. If you're in alignment with them, it won't by itself work. I would say Betsy's primary influence from this teaching, we've talked a lot, but is simply that she has been with me for a long time. But there is but she's in full alignment with me. So there's an openness to what's going on here. It wasn't always the case, but it became the case. And as a result of that, I mean, her life is, she told me yesterday, her life changed dramatically. She was talking to somebody else about it. This resonance that arises, the idea that there's a tuning fork there, tuning fork here, this tuning fork, but just for whatever reason is vibrating at a little bit higher, it's a little bit higher vibration than the one there. When these two come together, when that one rises, and so that they will harmonize. Now, but there has to be the alignment there. I woke up a guy, I don't know, a year or two ago, and he had lived with Osho for 17 years. Right? He's living with Osho for 17 years. So if there was a way for awakening to, because Osho may have been confused, but there was certainly a lot of awakeness there. If it would just rub off, this guy would have gotten it. But as long as he's trying to maintain his own views and remain independent, because that's the character wanting to awaken. I want to hang on to what I've got and put awakening on top of that. It's impossible. Only thing that you can do is break all that down and have awakening arise from this fresh ground.
Well, I was thinking that thinking is dangerous. And if you're with a teacher and you start thinking about what they're saying, that's not what you want to do. You need to there needs to be an aha moment. What you're looking for is the aha moment, and not, oh, well, here's some useful information. Let me think about that one. Let me get back to you on that.
Ramesh Balsekar used to say that you just need to let it hit you and then drop it like a hot rock. I forgot exactly what he said, but that was the idea, is that you hit it and you let it hit you and drop it the best of your ability. This pondering is what takes us really, there's no way to tell the truth here, but the pondering can pull us back into the drain. And it has a tendency, there's pondering, and there is open, I don't want to say, I can't say thinking, just, it's not really reflection. I don't know what it is, but there is a level of acceptance where something hits, and instead of it spurring pondering immediately or analyzing, it just hits, and just let it hit. Just sit with it, because we don't know which 5 words may be the catalyst for us.
I was going to say, if the gears start to turn, that's not what you're looking for. If you go, aha, there you go.
That's exactly right. Yeah, you're looking for the aha moments, and there may be some gear turning. There's going to be some gear turning, and that gear turning is maybe building context, and that context is valuable. Nothing's ever wasted. It's a good thing to have it, but it will not take you through the gate. It just won't. The intellect will not take you through the gate. It will take you to the gate, but it won't take you through the gate. And it's that extra something, which may be a hell of a lot bigger than what we know. Because, I've never seen anybody wake up that wasn't surprised. So it's what awakening really is. So I don't even know where I was going with that now.
And I just think it's hard for us because, you have the modern view is that, well, we're all equal, and this thing, well, I learned, it's sort of like there's a lack of respect for the teacher.
Yes.
And the role, but that's also a lack of respect for the role of the student too. There's a misunderstanding of we just play your role. And if you know what your role is and you play it effectively, then the process will work.
The respect is for the teaching, right?
It's mutual though too, because the teacher respects the student too.
But that's respect for the teaching.
Exactly.
It's the respect for the teaching. It's that I take very seriously what I do, and I expect other people to take it as seriously, and they rarely do, but sometimes they do. And when they do, they really begin to clear up. I was talking about inquiry. It's the only practice that I have found that bears a direct relationship to waking up and clearing up. Meditation has an indirect relationship, and I'm all for it if that's what you do. And it's, or whatever it is that you do, singing, dancing, bowing, chanting, I don't care. That if you feel drawn to it, please have at it. But I'm just suggesting that it may not have a direct relationship to awakening, and inquiry does. I was talking to a guy in Sweden yesterday, a guy who Lucas, who satsang's with us, and he has recently started doing inquiry, and he's just blown away by the progress that he's made. And this is a guy that right after he woke up, he went off into a month-long meditation retreat, and this and that and the other. So he's a dedicated meditator, but now he's trying something different, something new. He's trying this path because it's this. What we think, we talked about this earlier, is that we think we're in this cage, and we're in the cage, and it's just awful, and we're looking for liberation because it's just so confining, and it's so limited, and it's all this. And so when what we go in search of is, and there will be no problem in finding one, is that if we're not careful, we'll find a teaching that starts slipping us different keys to try in that lock. And we're like, oh no, but it went part way, and it went part way. That's it. Give me another key and let me try that. See if that'll work. And now this one, I'm making progress here. Let me try another key. And then there's another type of teaching very similar to that, which will give you a file. And this is the clever teaching, because they're going to go around the lock, and they're going to give you the file so that you can saw the bars away directly. Yeah. But this teaching is built around showing you that there's no cage. So no bondage, no liberation, right? And that's the key. And there certainly is something that happens, but it's not liberation. It's the awakening to the fact that you've never been bound. It's the awakening to the fact that bondage is a myth, and thus liberation is a myth. Ramana Maharshi told us that much. Right? And I'm sure there's been a zillion others that have.
Right. That's what I was saying. Diamond Sutra. In Diamond Sutra, they say, Buddha says, Subhuti, after the myriads of sentient beings have been liberated, have any sentient beings been liberated?
That's it.
No.
That's right. So we're told this, and we're told this over and over. But if you don't go deep in whatever it is that you're in, you'll walk right over that. You will just miss it completely. I remember going to back in the very early 90s, probably prior to I had a little awakening, profound but small awakening at that time, like a Kensho experience. But it was probably before that, but I can't be sure. Because I was totally deluded immediately after that Kensho experience. I can remember taking the Diamond Sutra, and I put it in my backpack, and I went to the top of a mountain in Oregon, or the top of a peak anyway. It wasn't the top of the mountain, but it was a peak, where I'm up there and the wind is blowing and it's just cold as all get out and all that. And I sat down and I read that Diamond Sutra with the idea that I'm gonna, because this is the magical book, and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to read this sutra, and I'm going to wake up. And, and I have all these romantic ideas of the seeker and the mountain climb and the now alone and with the nature and God and all of this. And, awakening did not occur. It's because I had not really gone deep with that teaching, and I missed it, but it was there. I just missed it. But it was like, well, this didn't work. Let me try. Reread it? No, I'm not thinking about that.
You had a very set idea of what was going to happen too. You had it all planned out. It's like a marriage proposal or something. You had it all planned out. You had it all ready to go. Everything was all set up, and then she wasn't willing.
Yes, that's right. That's right. It just, it
You
was
were not open to whatever it could do.
no, because I've already brought as I'm trying to negotiate an awakening. Look, I've got stage set. Right? This will be great for both of us. Right?
Right. Well, and that's what we're saying about being willing to be other than you are.
And there's the key. That's a mouthful. That's a mouthful right there. Is because what we want to do is we just really want to maintain the character, and our precious character, with all of its beliefs, opinions, positions, all of that. And we want very much for that character to wake up. And I'm just telling you, as you know, the character cannot wake up. Because the character is a Fig Newton of your imagination.
Yum.
Yeah. So it has there. What we're really going. If I had gone up there to that mountain, I didn't have to go to the mountain. I could have done it in my backyard, right, or in my living room. But the key is not to build up the character into this heroic Greek figure. It's the willingness to abandon the character.
It's a lot easier to do that in the presence of an awakened being, though. And that's the beauty of the teacher.
So this week, night before last, Betsy loaned me out to my ex-wife, Tammy. And Tammy and I went out to dinner and drinks. And she's a student, been a student for a couple of years. But she's not an everyday student or whatever. She just, whenever we get together, it's probably more teaching than anything else. And she asked me, she said, "Is it like work when you're with me? I don't want it to be like work." And it was like, no, it's not like work. But as we were sitting in this restaurant, and she just looked at me and she said, "How is it that I can, when I'm with you, I can see this so clearly?" And I got this thing, and she said, and I walk away, and it's like, and this is not to play up the Fredness in any way, but it's, well, guess where you are? You're with me. That's why.
I said to Kenton yesterday when we were talking, I said, it's like uranium-235 rods, because in a nuclear reactor, they keep them separate and they don't want the reactor to run. And then when they want the power to go on, they stick them together. And those rods come together and the radiation starts to build coming off of them. And the more rods you have and the more concentration of the radiation, the stronger the effect is. Yeah. And boy, you're putting it off like crazy.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But you've got to be open to that. The difference between this and between this sort of radiation and regular sort of and the nuclear radiation is that this requires openness on your part.
Right.
I can't wake anybody up. I can't make anybody. I've had a slew of people that wanted me to make them wake up. And I can't. I don't even do sessions with that, right? I mean, just if I suspect that that's the case, I will not do a session with that person. On awakening, I've turned down 2 this week. I don't do a session with everybody that writes me. I do a session with most of them, but I don't do one with everyone. If I read into that letter something that is, I mean, I'm picking the ripe fruit. This is not the teaching to come to ripen up into. This is you can. It's fine if you start out with the books and you move into it very quickly, and you get into this universe very quickly. But other than that, I'm not a coach for the newcomers, right? This is a polished teaching, very, very sharp, that is an extraordinarily effective method for the people it's effective for.
And it's not a question that these people don't have enough knowledge. They just don't have enough willingness. You could have some guy out in the country, and he doesn't know anything, but if he trusted you and was willing to follow your direction, that would work.
The first 2 people that I ever woke up had never heard the word non-duality. They never heard it. They had no idea. They didn't know anything about awakening. They didn't even know there was such a thing. But they trusted me. We weren't trying, and they were not trying to awaken when they woke up. So I always say that everybody that I worked with was trying to wake up when they woke up, and that's not true. These two guys were not. But they were trying to follow their teacher. They were this was spawn season in a 12-step series situation. And I was awake, and I had been basically, and I was teaching them and then we were going through inquiry, but I didn't realize that we were doing formal inquiry, and they had no idea what they were doing. They just thought we were talking, and then bam, they woke up because there was no resistance.
Yes,
that's the key, and yes. The lack of knowledge worked for them. I'm not saying that's always the case. And they've had to, well, one of them's dead now, but the other one's cleared up, has cleared up gradually over a series of years. But he's a good friend of mine. He's the owner of this home and my landlord. And he's clear today. I mean, he's not vibrantly clear because of the conditioning that's there, but he's clear. He gets it. He gets it absolutely, and he's spent a lot of time with me in a very trusting position. And I don't want to play up Fredness. It's the teaching, not the teacher.
I was going to say too that it's not about being good. It's just like this is just practical, effective advice. You know, so we were talking about that. It's not the superior or good or whatever. It's like, look, if you wanted to succeed at this, you need to follow this. This is just practical advice in terms of waking up. In self-help groups, which this is not. Self-group, that they have, what they call modeling. And you can do worse than to model your teacher. In other words, what is it that your teacher is doing that you're not doing? Would that work for you too? That's the reason you come to them. But if the idea is to try to defend your own ideas, I will blow you out. Right? I just will not. Nisargadatta used to love to argue. And that's wonderful. That's the way that unit worked. This one doesn't, right? Here it is. This is the way of it. And it's until I get clearer. In other words, here's the most truish thing I can say today. And it's a matter of accepting that. You could give the teacher the benefit of the doubt in this simple area. I'm not saying take your clothes off. I'm not saying give me all your money. I'm saying, but in this narrow area, be open to the new thing. It's funny. I was thinking about you talking about arguing, right? In order to argue, you have to have certain basic accepted presuppositions that everyone agrees to. Because if you say, well, 1 + 1 = 2, you're like, no, that's not true. 1 + 1 is 5. You're never going to be able to settle the argument.
Right.
So what we're doing is going beyond that. We're saying, look, let's work with those unstated, accept this, be open to it.
Be open to that. We're right back to getting in alignment. Part of giving in alignment is giving your teacher the benefit of the doubt, because it's just
right.
Possible. What if they were telling you the truth? Because there's always this sense that, well, that guy was pretty sharp, but I don't know. Right? And I think I got this thing over here. Give him the benefit, or her, give him the benefit of the doubt. Just, and try it their way. Yeah, I remember I was in Asheville, North Carolina years ago, out on a porch with just a dyed-in-the-wool seeker. I mean, he was just been a seeker for years, and he was a smart guy. Guess what? I only work with smart people. Dumb people don't call me. But there's a natural arrogance there. And he knew all the time. I mean, Hodge had spent the night at his house and stuff like that. This is a guy that really been around, but who didn't know his ass from the hole in the ground in terms of his true nature. So he was like counteracting what I was saying. I would say something, and he would come back with some intellectual argument. And then so I stopped right there. I'm back on the woman's porch, and I said, so I'm just going to call him Bob, as I always do, but that wasn't his name. But anyway, and I said, so Bob, tell me again, how long have you been seeking? And he said with pride, well, about 40 years. I said, have you noticed that it hasn't worked? And he kind of said, well, I mean, I made a lot of progress. Didn't you feel like that 30 years ago? Yeah. So what I want you to notice is that your way has not worked, has it? And he was willing to tell me the truth. And he said, well, I guess not. Right. And I said, now I'm sure I jumped on that with guess not or no, because I'm not going to let him get through that slippery hedged answer. And he said, no. And I said, well, so let me ask you this. Do you think that there is that if you continue to hang on to what you know, you think that there's something magical that's going to happen here in the 90 minutes to where your method is suddenly going to work? And it really caught him that he was still out there defending his own view. And I don't remember his response, but he came on board. He gave me the benefit of the doubt. What if this idiot is right? And for this teaching, it's particularly easy to do that because this teaching says, I mean, I don't know of a bunch of people that are backing themselves to the wall and saying, call me and I'll wake you up, right? Putting where the proof's going to be in the pudding. So it seems too good to be true. But give me the benefit of the doubt. See if it's too good to be true. Because I had so many people tell, I really thought this was too good to be true. And the truth is that the reason that I can talk about waking people up, virtually anybody up, most people, within 90 minutes or 2 hours or an hour, actually, is because they're awake when they get to me. And it's just being shown, right?
Oh, shit.
I remember right after the Book of Undoing was published, and I was letting people come to the house then. I don't now, but I had a steady stream of people who'd heard about me from Charleston and Asheville. Had virtually nobody from Columbia where I am, but people from Charleston, a little bit more enlightened city, and Asheville significantly more enlightened city, and a steady train of people. And I would look out the front door, and I would see Bob and Sue from Asheville. It's 4 o'clock, or it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I know they're supposed to be there at 2 o'clock. So I look out the window, and there's Bob and Sue. And it used to really strike me. I swear this would go through the mind. Well, there's Bob and Sue. I mean, clearly they're awake already. What are they doing here? Right? I mean, that would ring, and then Mr. Practical would kick in and say, take the money and the credit. Let him in. And I would, and then pretty soon they go, wow, this is man, what you're doing is amazing. Yeah, I'm just helping you see the truth. I'm making it very easy to tell yourself the truth. That's what it is. Because we're not in some mystical disconnection from our true nature. Our true nature is right here. It is the most obvious thing in the world. People tell me that they please help me see my true nature. I can't see my true nature, and I tell them, how's that? Because I can't see
anything else.
Right? So there is, but what happens is that we're all in denial. We're all addicted. We're all addicts. We're addicts to separation. Every one of us. That's the reason Beyond Recovery works. It doesn't. You read that book and then go with it with your addiction. That your addiction is to separation. And your addiction is to specialness. So if we can recognize that we are addicts, then what we can come to understand is that we're simply in denial. And I worked with many an addict back in the recovery days, many an alcoholic and many an addict, helping pull them out of denial. That's what we're in here. Am I telling the truth or not?
No, you're lying like crazy.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your backing me.
No, I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm sitting over there too.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately, the student and teacher drops, and the one
That's it.
dances in,
No
together.
teacher, just a teaching, and no student.
You just have to get yourself lined up with where you're, are you north or south here? Get yourself lined up, and then it'll drop.
And what drops is the denial. We keep waiting for a curtain to drop from this so that we can see what's actually behind this. And we're fighting to get behind the curtain, but we're already behind the curtain. And the curtain's not going to drop. It's just our denial of the fact that I'm behind the curtain already will drop. That's what drops. And there's a clear seeing. And yes, and it can have and there may be lights and hallucinations that accompany that, but most often there's not. It's like, but once it's seen, I mean, you can see, there's a turning point there, and you can see it, and people, oh.
Well, I'm having trouble right now, actually, because you've been zapping me for over an hour.
Yeah.
And I'm having trouble staying coherent with it. It's just like, it just is what I'm not here now. It is.
Because you and I have such great resonance, we connect the moment that we see each other. Is that there's just a great connection, and it begins, and it's never ended because we're the same damn thing.
Right.
Just that it's not like there's something that's going on between the two of us. These are all expressions, folks, in order to be able to talk about this thing that we can't talk about. But in fact, there's just one of us here, and it's that recognition that is awakening. At least it's conventional awakening. I'm not saying that's the end of it.
This package doesn't resist too much, which is helpful.
Mm-hmm. No,
and that's what we're pointing to with this whole discussion.
That's the reason I've got you doing it. Is that you have always been open to me blasting you out.
Right? That's beautiful. Yup, cut that out, Chris. You want to be right?
Right, right. There's that. And it's no, you can, and my old saying on this, which is you can win. I do say it all the time, trying to reset people in awakening sessions, is I want you to understand something. You can win this argument, but if you do, you won't wake up. Because I'm not going to fight to make my point. I'm going to tell you the truth, and it's take it or leave it. And if you were willing to tell yourself the truth, you're going to wake up with me. And if you're not, you're not. And most people are ready to do that by the time they get here. But that's why I don't take just anybody, because I'm picking the ripest fruit in the field. I want the people who are really ready to wake up, because here's the truth, is that there are millions of people out there declaring that they want to wake up, and they do not. They do not. They really don't. How many people want to wake? It's a small percentage of the seekers that actually want to wake up. Most people want to be seekers, and they succeed. And that's because you'll notice that in the very definition of declaring yourself a seeker, there's nowhere to have you instructed the mind or the spirit or whatever. There's no instruction to find anything. Their only instruction is seek. What are you doing? I'm a seeker. Well, how you doing? Oh, I'm hell on wheels. I'm a great seeker. And what do seekers do? They seek. And find? Oh, no. I lose all my friends. I lose my social position. I'm afraid I might, this, that, and the other. And the truth is that all I have seen is a great ad upon awakening. I mean, it doesn't mean that there's not some disruption in lives. It can happen. But Lucas told me yesterday, he said, I can't believe they're talking about the inquiry. He said, it's changed my relationships like this. He said, I can't tell you. And it's like this. I mean, huge changes in his interpersonal relationships. just by doing inquiry. This is not all out in left field and out of space and all cosmic and this and that and the other. There's certainly that element, but there's also a great practicality to awakening and living more skillfully within the dream.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a big bonus for the character in the dream.
It's a big bonus. So there's nothing in it for the ego, but that doesn't mean there's nothing in it for the unit, for the character. I mean, I'm having a blast, right? Because just living, I am awakeness living through Fredness. I'm not trying to get rid of Fredness. I'm just, what I'm doing is I actually like Fredness. He's an interesting character. I just don't believe what he says. I need to run because I got another.
Okay, great.
But thank you so much for
Good. That was a good one.
Sitting with me. That was
I
great.
think that went well.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
I'll see you Sunday for satsang.
Yeah, satsang. Okay, great.
Right. Bye-bye.
Bye.